Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today, we're going to be diving into,
Oh, this is a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land,
Classic.
science fiction classic.
Absolutely.
And it's a book that's got a really interesting backstory, not only for its content, but also for its publication history. The version that most people read for many years wasn't actually the full story.
Yeah, that's right. The original manuscript was actually quite a bit longer, and it wasn't until much later that Heinlein's widow was able to restore those missing sections.
Yeah.
And it was thanks to some changes in copyright law. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to think that people were only getting part of the picture for decades.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the whole tapestry is revealed.
It's wild, and the book itself is pretty wild too. We have Valentine Michael Smith, the first human born on Mars. He's raised by Martians, and then he comes back to Earth. He's a stranger in a strange land in the most literal sense.
Yeah. Yeah, in the most literal sense. And then that's part of what makes the premise so brilliant. It allows Heinlein to really delve into these themes of cultural clash, nature of humanity, and then also the search for meaning in a world that is both familiar and completely alien.
Right, and it's really interesting to think about, here's someone who embodies human DNA,
Right.
but has no concept of Earth culture.
Right.
It forces us to examine our own assumptions about what it means to be human.
Exactly.
And we see this clash right from the beginning of the book. The book opens with the return of this spaceship, the Envoy from Mars, and it's carrying the sole survivor, this very mysterious Valentine Michael Smith.
Mysterious figure.
He doesn't speak English. He's guarded.
Right.
And there are all these strange orders to keep him isolated, especially from women.
Especially from women, yeah. It really is like this powder keg of anticipation.
Right.
It just pulls you right into the story. You're immediately curious about this character Smith. Like, what is he like? What does he know? What's going to happen when he actually encounters Earth?
Right. And when he does finally arrive on Earth, it's like watching a fish out of water.
Yeah.
He's just trying to navigate a world he simply doesn't understand. One of the most striking scenes early on in the book is when he signs away the rights to his story for basically nothing. Like, he doesn't even comprehend the concept of ownership or the value that humans place on such things.
It's a great example of how Heinlein uses Smith's, this alien perspective, to satirize human behavior. We see ourselves through Smith's eyes, and suddenly, our priorities, our obsessions, they seem absurd.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he ends up under the care of Jubal Harshaw, this brilliant kind of cynical author and lawyer who becomes his guardian and mentor.
Right. Jubal is such a crucial character in the story. He represents this bridge between Smith's Martian innocence and the complexities of Earth culture.
Right.
He's trying to protect Smith from exploitation, but at the same time, he's also trying to teach him about this new world.
He's got his work cut out for him because Smith struggles to grok even the simplest human concepts.
Yeah, grokking, one of the most memorable concepts from the book, this Martian word that signifies this very deep, intuitive understanding that goes way beyond just intellectual knowledge. It's about experiencing something on this really fundamental level, connecting with it in a way that just transcends language or logic.
Right. But it's not easy for Smith to grok Earth. He approaches religion,
right,
politics, even laughter with this Martian mindset.
Yeah.
And the results are often hilarious.
Often hilarious and thought-provoking.
And really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that inability to grok Earth leads to all sorts of conflict. I mean, you've got the government, they want to control him. They want to control his Martian knowledge. You've got the media, they're sensationalizing his every move. And then you've got Smith himself. He's challenging traditional morality. And he's really seeking his own truth in this very chaotic world.
And along this journey, he meets a whole cast of characters that represent different facets of humanity. There's Jill Boardman, this compassionate nurse who becomes Smith's first water brother.
Right.
And she introduces him to the depths of human emotions.
The concept of water brother is really essential to understanding Smith's journey. It signifies this very deep spiritual bond, this sharing of essence through this ritual of drinking each other's water. And it's a really powerful metaphor for the connection that Smith craves, the understanding that he seeks.
Right, and it's through these relationships that Smith begins to understand what it means to be human, to experience love, loss, joy, and pain.
But it's not a smooth path. The book really highlights how difficult it can be for different cultures to truly understand and accept each other, even within the same species.
Right.
It's not easy.
It's a challenge.
And that's really where Heinlein's social commentary really comes to the forefront. He doesn't just focus on Smith's individual journey. He kind of zooms out and shows us Earth society in all its, complexity and contradiction.
I mean, it's like he's saying, look, even with this Martian among us, with all his, mind-blowing abilities and his unique perspective, we humans are still just caught up in our own dramas.
Exactly. We see the political turmoil, the social trends, the technological advancements, all playing out against the backdrop of Smith's arrival.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the absurdity of some of our human preoccupations.
Right.
We're so obsessed with power, money, fame, while Smith is searching for something much deeper, something that transcends our earthly concerns.
Yeah, it's a really powerful contrast. And it makes you question your own priorities. Like, are we so focused on all the, details that we're missing the bigger picture?
That's one of the big questions I think Heinlein is posing in this book.
Yeah.
And it comes into sharp focus, I think, when we look at his exploration of religion. Smith raised without any religious framework. He approaches faith with the same open curiosity that he brings to everything else.
Yeah.
And he encounters this whole variety of belief systems, from traditional Christianity to this new kind of futuristic religion called Fosterism.
Right. Fosterism is a fascinating creation. It's this blend of traditional religion and modern consumerism.
Yeah.
Complete with, celebrity preachers, televised sermons. They even have slot machines in the church.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant satire of how faith can be packaged and marketed like any other product.
Right.
And Smith, in his innocence, he's initially drawn to the spectacle of it all, the emotional intensity.
Yeah, and he even has this really memorable encounter with the Supreme Bishop. This really charismatic figure who kind of embodies that blend of religious fervor and showmanship. That defines Fosterism.
Right. But eventually, Smith sees through the facade. He recognizes the manipulation, the hypocrisy that often lies beneath organized religion.
Yeah, he's looking for something more authentic, a deeper connection with the universe.
Yeah, a deeper connection.
And this leads him to create his own path, his own community, the Church of All Worlds.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Right.
The church is based on Smith's Martian teachings on this idea of grokking, and his followers, they reject societal norms. They're embracing a much more free-spirited, unconventional way of life. Things like communal living, non-monogamous relationships.
And this unconventional lifestyle attracts a lot of attention and a lot of fear.
Oh, yeah.
They're labeled as heretics, deviants, a threat to society.
It's that classic fear of the unknown. People are threatened by what they don't understand,
Right.
by those who challenge their beliefs and their way of life.
And that fear leads to violence. The climax of the book is this brutal attack on the Church of All Worlds by a mob that's incited by the Fosterites. They see Smith and his followers as a threat to their power, their control over society.
It's a tragic reminder that even in a world with advanced technology, with a Martian among us, we humans are still capable of incredible cruelty and intolerance. And in this moment of crisis, Smith chooses to use his extraordinary abilities, not to fight back, but to protect his followers. He teleports them to safety, demonstrating this incredible level of compassion and selflessness.
Right, it's a really powerful scene. It shows that true strength lies not in brute force, but in empathy and understanding.
But this act of self-sacrifice, it leaves Smith vulnerable. He's exposed to the mob's fury, and it leads to his death.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking moment. But it's not a defeat. It's a deliberate choice. Smith discorporates,
Right.
leaving his physical body behind
Right.
and merging with the universe in a way that only he, with his Martian knowledge, can achieve.
It's a transcendent act, this final demonstration of his understanding of life-death and this interconnectedness of all things.
And while he's physically gone, his legacy lives on. The Church of All Worlds continues, carrying on his teachings, his philosophy of grokking.
And Stranger in a Strange Land ends on this note of both hope and uncertainty. Smith's teachings offer this path to a more harmonious world, a world based on understanding and acceptance. But it's up to his followers, and ultimately to humanity as a whole, to decide whether we're ready to embrace that path.
It's a powerful message, and it's as relevant today as it was when Heinlein wrote the book. We're still grappling with many of the same issues, cultural clashes, the search for meaning in a complex world, the power of belief systems, and this potential for both incredible love and terrible violence within the human heart.
And that's the thing about Stranger in a Strange Land. It's not just a science fiction story. It's like this mirror reflecting our own humanity back at us. It forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about our capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. It makes you question your own assumptions, your own place in the universe.
And it leaves us with some lingering questions, you know?
Ah.
Could Smith's teachings, even with their fantastical elements, could they actually offer a path to a more harmonious society? Could we as humans ever truly grok a civilization as different from our own as the Martians?
Or even closer to home, you know?
Hmm.
In a world that's just saturated with information and all these conflicting ideologies, can we learn to grok each other more deeply? Can we bridge these divides that separate us, the misunderstandings that lead to conflict and suffering?
It's a challenge.
It is.
But Stranger in a Strange Land suggests that it's a challenge worth undertaking. You know, if we can learn to see the world through each other's eyes, to understand and accept our differences, maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where compassion and empathy triumph over fear and prejudice.
It's a powerful message of hope. And it reminds us that even in the face of immense challenges, the human spirit has this capacity for growth, for understanding, for love. Stranger in a Strange Land is a book that encourages us to never stop questioning, to never stop seeking, and to never give up on the possibility of a better future.
Well said.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder these big questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep grokking.